Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. It has been a while since I did a plant update, so I'm here with you guys to share my, I guess, a fall houseplant update. Yeah, I think it's fall because the last one that I did was summer, and as always there have been quite a few changes. Some new plants have moved in, some plants have left. So as I said, this is the fall 2020 houseplant update. Yes, it is fall. I cannot believe that we're in fall now. Oh boy. This summer was quick. It was a hot one, but it went by really quickly, as summers always do, more or less. But I am very excited to share with you guys some of the updates that have been happening around with my houseplant collection. If you guys have not been following along with my houseplant journey, I will link the other few videos that I've made before. And if I mention them, they'll be in the title cards here somewhere, one of the corners. But yeah, I am addicted to plants, and anybody who is a close friend of mine will probably say that I have a bad problem because I've been collecting plants for the last 2 years, and we live in a tiny condo, guys. I literally have no space for anything. We always complain about space, and I can't stop collecting plants. Yeah, it's a bad problem. Safe to say, I don't kill as many of them anymore, purposefully at least. And I think I've developed quite a green thumb over the past 2 years of becoming a plant mama. I have this year successfully grown so many more veggies than I've ever expected. And we actually cooked one of our first harvests last night. So yay! I'm feeling great about this summer so far, and I'm excited to see what next summer is going to bring. Hopefully it'll be a lot better than this one. So I'm going to change the format of this video a little bit because last time I did the video, I found it really hard to kind of talk about all the different plants. Since we have 3 vignettes, we have the bedroom, living room, and the balcony, and going around and filming all the plants, although it was great to kind of show you guys where I kept them all, it was really heavy on my arms with the camera, and a lot of the times the video just kept going in and out in regards to blurriness. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chat here in this spot, and I'm going to have a cutaway over here or here, one of the two, showing the plant up close in detail so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to the plants, and you guys can properly see the plants without them fuzzing in and out. So that is my goal. Let me know if you guys like this change. Comment down below if you guys prefer that I go back to the other original way that I used to film this video. Please let me know. It's all just like handheld, walking around the house showing you guys the plants, but then a lot of the times they're like bunched up with other plants and it's not easy to tell what's what. So let's just jump right into it. So because I'm sitting in the living room right now and I don't have to move around the plants until I'm filming them really, I'm just going to start rattling off the plants in the living room space and give you updates of plants that went RIP, and plants that are new, and plants that are here to stay or have survived through my summer chaos. To recap, my living room faces south, and we get very bright indirect light. I say indirect because I live in a condo and we have a balcony above us that during the day actually casts a shadow into the building when the sun hits it. Also, our windows are fairly tinted. They're quite dark, so my plants don't necessarily get as much light as if they were sitting outside in the shadow on my actual balcony. And I can tell because I put one of my Rhaphidophora Tetraspermas outside, and it grew and sprung up like a weed over the summer. It started putting out so many side shoots as well, as compared to its other 2 Rhaphidophora Tetraspermas that I've kept indoors, but behind the windows. They've grown ultimately, but they definitely have not grown as much, and I don't think that they're as thick in regards to their stem as the one that's sitting outside. So it's fairly bright indirect light, but it's not like the brightest out there. My plants are happy, but they could be happier. That's what I know. So one thing I do wish when we buy a house one day is to have like lots of huge big windows for me to put my plants in front of, for them to thrive and grow so that I can live in a jungle. Facing south, bright indirect light, we're gonna first start off with my Philodendron Birkin. That is definitely a plant that I have never featured on my channel yet, and I am very excited. I actually got this a couple of months ago. Well, my friend picked it up for me. He was at a nursery on the way back from Ottawa, close by to Toronto, and he managed to locate one of the Philodendron Birkins and brought it back for me. And I'm so happy. This thing grows like a weed, and I've only had it for a couple months, and it's been sprouting out leaves like no tomorrow. The one weird thing though is that the leaves start off like really small, and they grow bigger as they put themselves out. I know a lot of other plants do this, but they're slow growers in regards to the size of the leaves, but they keep putting out new leaves. Like I have baby leaves that are this small and they're already putting out more leaves. I'm just like, how? Like, am I not giving you enough sunlight? Why are you not getting big enough? So I've kind of been shuffling it around the living room over the past couple of weeks, trying to look for a place to put it so that it's happier with sun and thriving, because dormant season's coming soon, guys. Fall and winter is upon us. These plants are going to stop growing, and I really want them to thrive as much as possible right now before it gets too cold for them to grow. I digress. My Philodendron Birkin, I love it. It is a great plant to have around the house. Super, super hardy. You're not gonna really kill it, at least for myself. I just water it like once every 10 days or so to make sure that the soil is moist, give it some good drainage, and it is more than happy. Right now, it is super, super healthy. One of the new additions to my place, and I'm just loving it because as each leaf grows out, it gets whiter and whiter and whiter and has more variegation. If you guys are not familiar with the Philodendron Birkin, it has lots of variegation, and that is essentially more or less why people love to gravitate towards that plant. It is a stunningly beautiful plant. But yeah, number one for the living room. Let's keep track of how many plants I have in one of these corners, the same way I did last time, and we'll see how many plants I have at the end of this and compare it back to the summertime maybe. So plant number 2, I can't remember if I mentioned this in my summer houseplant update, and that is a ZZ Raven. So I picked one up from Valley View quite a few months ago. I think it was closer towards the end of the initial lockdown when a lot of places were starting to reopen again, and they had some ZZ Ravens there in stock for like 35 bucks for a 6-inch pot. I know ZZ Ravens are really, really expensive, but they managed to import a bunch of them somehow, and the price of them has actually gone down quite a bit across the city, so it's not as rare as it used to be anymore, but I still truly love the plant. I like ZZ plants in general, but I gravitate more towards a ZZ Raven as opposed to the regular ZZ plant, just because I find that the black on the leaves is so intriguing, and also just watching them change from green to black is so mind-boggling. Any new growth that comes from this plant actually starts off green, like fluorescent, pale, neon bright green. Those were a bunch of words that I feel were oxymoronic, but if you guys were to see new fresh growth, you'll understand what I'm talking about. And over time, it fades and becomes black. It just like darkens. It takes anywhere from 2 weeks to 6 months depending on your plant and the lighting conditions that it has, but as it matures, the leaves get dark until it's like an inky black, and it's just really cool, I think, to have a plant that's like black. Why have normal plants when you can have black plants, right? I don't have a problem with me, guys. I just think it's really cool to look at. Anyways, my ZZ Raven, it grew a brand new shoot when I first brought it home a couple of months ago, but for some reason it just has stopped growing. One of the branches has completely dried out and is actually on its way out right now. I truly need to clip it and get rid of that branch, but I can't bring myself to do it because there's not that many branches. But I'm just telling myself once I clip it, it'll force another tuber to shoot up and give me another new leaf. Other than that, plant itself is pretty happy. I love it. It's a low maintenance plant overall. You don't need to take care of it too extensively. You just water every once in a while. It actually does way better being underwatered than it does overwatered. So anybody out there who likes to neglect their plants a little bit, this is definitely a plant to look into. It's also hard to determine when exactly this plant is dying because the leaves aren't green, they're dark to begin with. And a lot of the times I know we find that a sign of a dying plant is when a green leaf starts to darken and get brown and black. So something to keep in mind when you're looking at this plant. Maybe the original green one is a better option for you if you're not that, I guess, savvy, or you don't have that much of a green thumb when it comes to your plants. But the black one is absolutely stunning and a really cool addition to any plant lover's collection at home. And if you're able to keep an eye on it and just like monitor the leaves to make sure that they look healthy, honestly, overall, you'll be able to take care of this plant fairly well. So moving on is one of my pink princess philodendrons, and you guys know how much I love my variegated plants. I have an addiction to them, which is why I love to collect variegated, like weird colored plants. So the pink princess philodendron is actually a really dark burgundy plant. The leaves come out originally green, and over time they darken to like a really dark red, and they also sometimes have some pink speckling on it. I've seen like splashes of pink, like huge splotches. I've seen like freckles on a leaf. I've seen an entire leaf pink, literally just half a leaf pink. It is a gamble. It's like a lottery. Every single time this plant puts out a new leaf, you never know what to expect from it. And I thoroughly love that. I feel like it's an adventure and it's like an adrenaline rush, waiting to see what type of leaf you're gonna get every single time it unfurls a new one. So the one that I have out here in my living room is actually the older one. I think I've had that one for almost 2 years now. It is from one of my earlier exploits of when I was collecting plants quite early on, and it's been thriving so far. If you guys have followed along in my previous video, then you'll know that I actually accidentally damaged the plant when I was taking out one of the leaves. The leaves sometimes get stuck in the shafts when they're emerging from a previous one, and I was trying to excavate it and I accidentally broke off the leaf from the stem, but it has since then recovered, and all the brand new leaves that it's currently putting out are very nice and healthy and the appropriate size. So I feel like the plant has taken care of itself and it's back to normal now. It doesn't have as much variegation as I would love it to have, although one of the leaves does have that 50-50 50-50 pink and green split, which is really cool. You guys will see it in the cutaway. But overall, the plant itself is healthy, and I'm just happy about that. I just want to be back to normal and to grow new leaves, and it's grown so tall this past summer, so I'm very, very happy with it. Next up is my Transcendentia, and it is a plant that I don't love the most. I have a love-hate relationship with it. This is a plant that my mom actually gave me, and I've had it for almost a year and a half now. The issue with this plant is that it gets very top heavy, and as it grows, it slowly starts to topple over. So I've actually had to lop this plant off a couple of times, replant it into soil, and then it doesn't like super moist soil because then it starts to rot. And then one time I left it in water for too long when I was away traveling, it rotted, it fell off, broke, I had to restart. They're actually really quite easy to take care of. You just like plop it back into soil and it'll just reroot on its own. And it in itself has given me so many babies. Surprisingly though, the babies are healthier than the mother plant. The mother plant is like on its last limbs right now. I truly think that by next summer, if this guy does not survive, I'm gonna just have to toss in the garbage and take one of the baby plants that it gave me and just work on that, because they're sitting outside my balcony and they're thriving. They have grown so much. They're thick, healthy, juicy, whereas this mother plant is just like stringy and pale and doesn't have much color. And it's actually a quite high maintenance plant, even though it's fairly easy to take care of, because you have to make sure that it's constantly not wobbling and giving it the support that it needs. So it's one of those plants that, like, although I love it and I think it's beautiful, I probably would have been okay without it, but I do love it because it was a gift from my family and I'll keep it forever. Next plant I'm going to chat about is my spider plant. So you guys know that I have two big mother spider plants that I got from my cousin. They started off as babies and now they're like these humongous things and they take up so much space. So my spider plant in my living room has put off so many babies, and I've actually gone as far as donating the babies in exchange for like alcohol, beer, wine to a bunch of people in my building, just because we have this like plant swap or just object sharing exchange situation happening in our building Facebook group. And it's always really nice when I can give away my plants because they take up so much space. Little sproutlings are like everywhere, and I can give them away to a family that will take care of them, and in exchange I get some more beer and alcohol without me having to go to the store. So I feel like that's a win-win. But the one that's currently in my living room, it has gone through 2 rounds of propagation. It's currently putting out some new babies, not big enough yet that I would give away necessarily right away again, but I'm hoping to be able to give them away closer to the end of maybe fall and have it kind of just like sit dormant on its own on the side there. I have a thrips problem with it slightly. Actually, a lot of my plants right now I'm dealing with thrips, and it is the worst thing in the world. It's these like tiny little black bugs. I didn't even knew were what they were until I did some digging, because a lot of my plants had these little like black dots on the back of the leaves, and it had silvery damage on the top leaf. And then when I did some research online, I found out the little black dots is a sign of excrement, little poop from bugs. I didn't know bugs would poop, but I guess that makes sense because they had to eat something. Anywho, these bugs poop little trails of like black balls on the back of your leaves, and then they go back and bury themselves in the dirt or inside the stem, where they eat the leaf somewhere else. But that is a sign of the bugs in itself when you can't find the bugs. And then anyways, I found the bugs and I was like, fuck. So a lot of my plants that I have in my place right now do have like a minor thrips infestation. I've been going hard at spraying insecticidal soap on all of my plants for the past 2 months or so, and I think that has really minimized the overall population and the infestation of thrips, so I'm very happy. But man, when they attack spider plants, they ravage the shit out of your plants. And these plants have a lot of leaves and foliage for the bugs to hide in. So I'm keeping like a close eye on this guy and making sure it doesn't get infected, because if it does, he's literally like a carrier of 1,000 bugs that can affect all my other plants, because I have some very rare plants sitting here that I don't want to get damaged. That guy's currently being monitored just in case he gets more damage from thrips, and if he does, he's gonna go bye-bye, because I'm sorry, I can't keep. Spider plants are like a dime a dozen, so you can always get them elsewhere, but a lot of the plants that I have right now I cannot replenish because they're a little bit rare, so I don't want them to get infected. Moving on to another rare plant is my Thai Constellation Monstera Deliciosa. This one you guys will remember I got as a gift from Mel for my birthday last year, and I love this plant to death. It is absolutely stunning, and it falls perfectly in line with my love for variegation. And although it's a very rare plant, I do know that the prices are dipping a little bit in North America, because there's a lot of tissue culture plant enthusiasts that are producing the plant in mass quantities for purchase here. So it is what it is, it happens. But I think the plant itself is absolutely stunning. It gave me one leaf this season. One leaf, guys, that's right, one leaf. Whereas I've had other plants that's given me like 20 leaves, it has given me one. But it is okay, I will accept it for what it is. The beautiful brand new leaf has a huge white variegated patch, which just makes me happy because I like seeing the variegation. Hopefully the next leaf has even more variegation. I would love to one day have a fully white leaf. I know that's not really sustainable because the leaf in itself can't create any chlorophyll to sustain the plant, and it'll eventually die off. Actually, the white parts of the plants are usually the most delicate, and I have to be really careful to make sure they don't get sun damage or insect damage on them. So I'm closely monitoring that plant because it's close to the spider plant. I did see some thrips on it, but so far I've been spraying the shit out of that plant with the insecticidal soap, and over the course of the past 3 days I haven't noticed any new thrips, which is a good sign. So I'm pretty happy about that. But this guy's a super slow grower. A lot of people tell me that they find that theirs grows really fast. For some reason mine just grows super exponentially slow. I've done a lot of research online, and the consensus says that because there's a lot of variegation in the plant, it can't produce as high quantities of energy and chlorophyll as a regular plant would when all of their leaf is green, which is why the growth of this plant is significantly slower than other ones. But honestly, I'm okay with it. As monsteras grow and they get larger, they take up so much space anyways, and I don't want to have to repot unnecessarily and constantly. So I'm hoping that it stays a relatively decent and manageable size within the next couple of years before we move into a bigger home, because as long as I'm living in this condo, I cannot have humongous plants. I just don't have the space for it. So yeah, very happy with that one, and I adore this brand new leaf. I cannot wait to see what future leaves hold in variegation for me. So moving on to the next plant, we're gonna chat a little bit about my golden pothos, and this is one that I got as a cutting from a trade online off of the Buns app. This cutting, as you guys know, last year I kept for the longest time in water and it just wasn't thriving, but I was waiting for the roots to develop before I stuck it into soil. Earlier this spring, I actually repotted it into soil and it has taken off. I think since I've repotted into soil, it's given me at least like 6 to 8 new leaves. I have had to give it a little bit of a slight amputation to cut off some pieces that were kind of like, I guess, dealing with root rot because I was sitting in water for so long and the root just ended up rotting on its own. But other than that, it has been thriving. It is trailing, the vine is getting long. There's a new vine that's slowly starting to get longer as well, and I cannot wait to see how far it's going to get by the end of this year. I know during the dormant season of the fall winter, it will slow down in growth quite a bit. I'm not going to see as much activity on this plant, but hopefully it'll still give me like a new leaf, I don't know, maybe once a month. Right now it's on pace for a new leaf every 2 weeks or 1.5 weeks. It's a pretty fast grower, and I'm just hoping that it gets big enough that I can clip it, propagate it, and stick it back in the base of the plant just to make it bushier, because I would love to have like a huge vining bush that I create on my own, not one that I bought. Although no shame to people who do buy the big basins, I would just love to create my own because I think that's very satisfying to see that you produce this thing. So yeah, very happy with my golden pothos. It is giving me all the happiness right now. You guys may have seen in my previous houseplant tour video that I had a Monstera Adansonii clipping that I was propagating for the longest time. I also put it into soil to see if it would help grow a little bit faster, and for the first couple of months it did shoot out a lot of healthy new big leaves. No variegations though, unfortunately. I think it was just adjusting from the shock of moving from water to soil, but I wasn't getting any leaves at all. And I don't know what happened, but out of nowhere, all the leaves just started dying on me. I think it actually was thrips, because when I was looking at it, it had a lot of those little black dots and silver damage on the leaves, which is indicative of a thrips infestation. So I unfortunately had to end up throwing that guy out and restarting. My kind friend Didier actually gave me a clipping of his Monstera Adansonii, and it's currently isolating itself in the kitchen right now because I don't want to put it close to my plants just in case. I'm not saying he has bugs in his plants, but it's general practice that you guys should have whenever it comes to introducing new plants into your home, isolating it for a couple of weeks. You can pretend it has COVID or something and just quarantine it so that after a while it is settling to your house and it looks healthy before you bring it into your other plants. I actually really like to spray down any new plants that I acquire with insecticidal soap to like fight off any potential bad bugs. And who knows, you don't want it to acquire any bugs from the previous plants that you have in your house anyway, so it's always a good practice to isolate, quarantine those plants for about 2 weeks or so, spray them down, make sure that they are bug free before you introduce them to the plants in your house. But that one is currently sitting in the living room. The other one I had to throw it, so this is a replacement one. I guess we kind of chatted about 2 plants at once. One that went RIP and a new one that just came in to replace it. Now moving on to my rubber fig. So this is one of the earlier plants I acquired in my plant journey, and it's safe to say that it has not been faring well over the past couple of months. It has dropped a lot of leaves. I think I underwatered it for quite a while and it kind of shriveled up, but it has since then put out quite a few new leaves. Granted, they are a little bit smaller, and I think this happens to plants when they kind of like halfway die and rejuvenate themselves afterwards. They kind of restart again as a baby plant, even though it has existing leaves that are big on it already. I don't know why, it just happens. This guy's still alive and I'm very happy because it was one of the first plants that I acquired, well, amongst the few that I have here. And I don't know, I feel like I hold a little bit of a sentimental value to it since I've had it for so long, but he's still doing well, putting a couple leaves here and there. I love the look of rubber plants because of the big shaded kind of umbrella leaves that come out everywhere, and they grow relatively quickly. So I have high hopes for it that come this time next year, it'll be a lot bushier, taller and bigger, and I'm definitely going to have to repot it in the spring and give it a nice bigger pot because the pot it is in right now, it's gonna grow out of it soon. With all the roots that it has in there, it's been like over a year since I last gave it a repot. So it's fairly due for one. The next plant that I have sitting in my living room used to actually sit in the bedroom. If you guys watch the previous video, then you'll know and recognize it from the bedroom, but I have since put out into the living room because I had to give it a slight propagation and haircut, and that is my string of hearts. So my string of hearts used to be like yay high, I think, yeah. And since having it for almost a year now, I think I got it last summer as a replacement for my variegated string of hearts, which died from mealybugs. This one is doing really, really well right now. It has grown so long. Some of the strands were almost 2 meters long, so I had to actually give it a haircut earlier last month, propagate the strands and stick them back in the soil. Not only does this create a bushier plant overall because it's thicker at the base and it has more strands coming out of it, but it helps to alleviate the length of the plant and get it a little bit shorter because it was getting a little bit too long for my preference and was starting to trail everywhere and get really, really messy. I'm actually quite glad that I propagated and snipped it quite a bit because now I think the new growth has pushed each strand to push out like 3 or 4 strands individually, and it's just going to get bushier and bushier as it goes. So I'm very, very happy with that. The strands at the end were also getting quite leggy, which means it was searching for nutrients and sunlight and water, and usually that means it's time to give it a quick snip, pot it, or just give it a little bit more water. I have since given it a lot of fresh water and a lot of topsoil where you just kind of like top it off a little bit to give it more nutrients and some fertilizer. So the only thing left to do was snip it, and I did, and now the plant looks significantly bushier and I'm so happy. So just a couple plants left in the living room before we'll move to the bedroom. I know there's a lot. This is going to be a long video. It always is a long video, so I hope you guys have a drink and a snack with you as you're watching this, or you're watching this while you're getting ready in the morning because it's a long one. So we're going to chat about my 2 Rhaphidophora Tetraspermas that I have in the living room. We're going to kind of mesh them together, but I'll make the number counter align so that it hits how many plants I have in total, like the realistic number of plants that I have. So I have 2 of them and they're growing really, really crazily. One of them is almost exceeding the brand new bamboo stick that I gave it. I literally got this bamboo stick, like, I'm not kidding you guys, probably 2 months ago, and it has grown over a foot since then, and I'm gonna have to find a new one. I don't know where I'm gonna find taller bamboo sticks because my ceilings only go this high, and if this guy keeps growing in here throughout the winter, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have to lop it off and repropagate it and shorten it and make the base bushier, but I really don't want to because I want to see how long it can grow, but at the same time I want to wait until I have a house with taller areas for it to reach up to. I don't know. I'm torn here, guys. Please let me know what you think I should do. But one of them has grown so long that it is almost surpassing the brand new stick that I've given it. Although I am very, very happy and satisfied inside because it means I'm doing a great job with this plant, and I'm just like, yes, Vic, you're a great plant mama. The other one has grown significantly tall as well, but it has in no means surpassed the stick. It still has like at least 1.5 feet. I'm looking at it right now as I'm talking about it, and it is still growing. It's pretty healthy, but it's kind of slowed down a little bit. And I think that each plant, as they slowly embark and embrace their dormancy as they move into the fall winter, will slow down at their own rate, and that one just happened to slow down a lot faster than the other one for some reason. I don't know why. Don't ask me. I have no idea how that works. But Rhaphidophora Tetraspermas, as I've mentioned before, are really rapid growers. They grow like weeds, so if you guys want a fairly easy plant to take care of, although they are kind of rare depending on where you live and they can get pretty pricey, but I highly recommend going to a nursery if you can because they're a little bit cheaper than going to your local grocer or like plant boutique. Can get a hold of them. They grow so fast. It is so satisfying to watch. I know for myself, when I have plants that don't really grow that quick, I get frustrated because then I wonder like, what am I doing wrong with this plant? But this plant just shoots out a new leaf like every single week. It spits out a new one, and even as the new one is growing, you can see little baby ones starting to pop out already as is. It's kind of insane. So highly recommend it for anybody who loves plants and gets satisfaction out of seeing brand new leaves coming out. If you have the coin for it, pick it up. Otherwise, I'd probably wait for a friend of yours to propagate theirs before you can get your hands on one because they can be quite pricey since they're still like relatively rare. Second last plant in the living room we're going to chat about is my Hoya Compacta, and this guy has survived a lot. Last year I had a horrendous mealybug infestation on it, and it was like almost dried up to the point it looked like cardboard. And after like a month straight of monitoring it and constantly wiping it down with alcohol anytime I saw a bug, it had completely bounced back, and it's safe to say that this guy is happy. Now, if you guys are not familiar with Hoyas, they're extremely slow growers, so probably what you're seeing now is not that much different from what I showed you guys in the summer, and also not that much different from what I showed you guys in the spring. He doesn't put out that many new leaves frequently, but I'm quite happy with it because it's stayed pretty healthy since the last time it had the mealybug infestation, which means he's a-okay, and I'm very, very happy about that. So not much else to say about my Hoya Compacta besides the fact that he has stayed healthy, and I'm glad. The last plant that I have is a Leek. It's not really a plant that I've been taking care of. It's just a plant that I've had here for fun. We decided to repot a Leek into some water just to see if it would grow and propagate, and it did. I don't really love leeks to eat on their own, so I didn't really have any intentions to more or less eat the plant after I grew it. But halfway through, I guess propagating it in water, it decided to bolt when it was really hot one day, and it just started putting out flowers. So it was just kind of fun to watch that process. And in all honesty, I'm probably just gonna throw this plant in the garbage come winter time because I don't really grow leeks to eat. I just wanted to experiment and see what would happen with it. And that's a really fun and easy way to kind of like play around with plants without investing too much into it. If you guys have leftover vegetable cuttings at home, you can always just plant the seeds into soil and just see what happens. If it all goes to hell, then so be it. But if you guys get a plant, then yay, you either get some fruit or vegetables to harvest, or you can just chuck out after you've had your fun time with it. But a really fun and affordable way for you guys to get plants if you don't want to buy and invest in too many plants without knowing whether or not you can take care of them. It's gonna go in the garbage probably in a couple of weeks because I have nothing to do with it. And also after they bolt, they become bitter and aren't really good to eat anymore, so it's bolted. It's going bye-bye into the garbage soon. So that concludes everything in regards to the living room. We're gonna move quickly into the bedroom now and chat about the plants that I have in there. So the bedroom definitely has a lot less plants because there's a lot less place for me to put plants, but I have quite a few of them in there that I wanted to touch on as well. First one up is the bird's nest fern. This guy, I primarily got it off of Abundance Trade because I was doing some reading online and found out that it helps to purify and cleanse the air. Have I necessarily noticed a difference in the bedroom air quality? Not really, but I mean, it doesn't hurt to have it there. I also did some other reading which said that you literally need to live in a jungle's worth of plants in order to have as clean air as you think. So I don't think it impacts the quality of our air enough for us to really notice it. If it does do something, great. If it doesn't, whatever, it's a cute plant to have. Now it is a fern, so it's fairly difficult to take care of. I keep it away from the sun. It's sitting on Peter's side of the bed, which hides behind the headboard a little bit, so it does get some, I guess, like indirect sunlight, but it's not bright. It's like low light indirect sunlight, and I don't miss it as much anymore because I also did some reading online that said that if you mist your plants too much, you are perpetuating mold growth because all of the moisture and the hydration stays in the leaves of the plants and doesn't have anywhere to escape to if you don't have good ventilation. We don't have the best ventilation in our condo, so I try not to miss my plants whenever I can't put them outside if they're gonna be staying indoors. But overall, I just water that plant whenever it needs the water. It's a fairly slow grower, so honestly half the time I just kind of forget about it until I see it kind of like plop over all sad and thirsty, and then I give it some fresh water. And moving on to the next plant, the current one that I have sitting on my bedside table is a Marble Queen Pothos. So I kind of change up the plants that I keep on my bedside table every once in a while because I do need them to stay fairly small. Once they get too big, I have to rotate them off and give it some more space elsewhere. But this one is still fairly root bound in its pot, so I felt like it'd be okay to keep it there. And this Marble Queen Pothos did also have a little bit of thrips damage, but I've been monitoring it like crazy for the past 2 months, spraying it down, checking to make sure that there's no bugs on it every single morning. Like, I kid you not, I inspect the shit out of this plant. I hold up to the window and look at the leaves, and if I notice any black spots, I just like pinch them off and make sure that they go bye-bye. But that has not stopped the thrips from damaging the plant itself, which is unfortunate, but it's gonna happen. Like, you can't eradicate, I guess, a bug population 100%. Like, it's so hard to be able to do that because they live not only in the soil, in the nooks and crannies of the plant, in like the stems where the new leaf growth comes from, so it's really hard to find it. And it's always unfortunate whenever a new leaf comes out and it's like damaged from thrips. You can't really do anything about it. You just gotta live with it and move on and continue treating the plant in hopes that you get rid of the insects that are in it. But it's thriving right now. It's slowly starting to vine. I acquired this one earlier on, I think this spring. I may be wrong. You'll have to watch my previous videos to correct me on that. But it's doing pretty well. A lot of the vine sections have started to put out a lot of leaves. I think each vine section has put out anywhere from like 3 to 4 leaves this past season alone, so it's pretty healthy, and I'm very excited to see where it's going to go next year. Hopefully by the end of next fall it will have enough growth to start vining quite a bit, and I'll have to take it out into the living room and mount it on one of the bookshelves. But in the meantime, it's just this like sproutly bush that's like starting to expand a little bit in the bedroom, and I'm very happy with how it looks so far. So moving on to the corner of my bedroom, I have my lovely Monstera Deliciosa, and this is, I think, actually the very first plant I acquired. I also got this one off of Buns. A lot of my earlier plants, I got them off of Buns in trades because they're more commonplace ones. A lot of my newer recent ones, I actually purchased myself because they're a little bit harder to get a hold of. But this Monstera I got as like a baby sproutling. I think somebody grew them from seeds and sold them. I bought it for like 10 bucks when I was like a tiny little baby. Obviously you can buy huge massive ones for like $25 now. They're fairly inexpensive and a fairly common plant to come across, so they're not expensive anymore. And looking back now, $10 was quite expensive for the plant at the time. But honestly guys, since we live in such a small condo, I wanted a small plant that I could take care of, watch grow, and not have to worry about where the hell am I gonna put this ginormous thing. And it has flourished so much. I know this summer it only really put out, I think, 2 leaves for me in total, but they're so satisfying to watch because every time they unfurl, they have so many fenestrations, and it's just, it gives me like satisfying plant mama vibes. I cannot wait until I get leaves that have window fenestrations, and that is a second layer of holes besides the gashes on the outside where you get these like little circle pockets in the center along the spine of the plant. And I heard that you can get up to, I think, 3 levels of fenestration. When it's at its full maturity, you'll get like the second little smaller pockets inside, and those leaves are like humongous. I just want to see huge leaves and feel like I'm living in a jungle. I feel like that'd be so cool. But yeah, that guy's thriving and doing really well right now. Next plant next to it is actually my Fiddle fig tree, and that little baby one has only for some reason given me 1 leaf so far this summer as well. It also has a minor thrips infestation, and I do see some thrips eating the baby leaf every once in a while, so I do monitor and make sure that they're kicked off of there. But overall, it's thriving compared to my last fig that like literally died and all the leaves shriveled up. It's doing significantly better. I think the last one also had spider mites on it, so that was a huge issue. Bugs are a nightmare to deal with when it comes to plants, guys. You do not want to have bugs, please. Like, no, don't even belittle anybody who has a bugs issue with their plants. It's not because they're dirty or their plants are dirty. Bugs just live everywhere, and they cling to your plants and they will destroy your plants. So I'm very happy right now that my Fiddle fig tree is doing well. Next to it is my second Pink Princess Philodendron. I bought that one on a whim from Valley View, I think last fall, when my current and oldest Pink Princess Philodendron decided to go into dormancy, and I was freaking out that I wasn't putting out any new leaves, and I just was itching to get some more pink into my life. So I got that one. That one's also thriving, doing really well, putting out lots of new leaves, but you know, I have 2, so it's nothing too special about the 2 of them. I think I do really love the other one, the older one that I have, because I have that sentimental value of knowing that's one of my like earlier plants. So fairly attached to it, but this one's doing quite well as well. We'll see how big it gets. If it gets way too big next year, I'm probably gonna have to sell it off because I don't have a lot of space in my condo. And I know Peter's probably not gonna be too happy with all of our space being overrun by plants. Also in the bedroom is my Ficus Tineke, which is the variegated rubber fig tree, and that one is doing fairly well. I used to have 4 stems. One of them died, it's down to 3, but they're thriving. They were putting out a lot of new leaves until I discovered last month that it also was being eaten alive by thrips. A lot of the leaves have that like weird silvery damage, so I've been monitoring it really closely and making sure that it's not getting destroyed again by thrips. It doesn't go through as quick of a destruction as some other plants do, just because the leaves are fairly thick and resilient. It takes a lot of effort for the bug to eat the plant. So I don't think it's dying as quick as some other plants are, but due to its thickness, it's making it easier for me to kind of eradicate the infestation of thrips on the plant, just because it's harder for the insect to do a lot of damage to the plant immediately at once, but it's still thriving. I think each stem has given me like at least 3 to 4 leaves this season. Earlier in the season, like way back in late June, early July, it was like growing like crazy, and since then in the past month it hasn't really put out any new leaves really. And I know during the dormant season it puts out like 1 new leaf every 2 months, but I'm happy with where it's gotten. It's grown so much since I last got it about like a year and a half ago from Sharon Nursery, so I'm very happy with it. And for some reason the Ficus Tinekes are like super popular this summer. I don't know why, and everybody has seemed to have like a really hard time getting a hold of one, so I'm really happy that I have one plant that has 3 stems on it. It was expensive, I thought then. It was like $35 or something like that, but now I see 1 stem selling for like $25 on its own, so I'm pretty happy with the price that I paid for and how far it's growing. So we are going to move on to the Triostar Stromanthe. Now this guy, you guys know I love my calatheas, but this one has given me so much headache. I know last year I had spider mites on it, all the leaves were wrinkling up and dying, and then partway through the winter time I rehabilitated it. It started putting out brand new leaves in the middle of winter. I don't know how, when it was supposed to be dormant, and it got really healthy. Unfortunately, it currently sits next to a spider plant that. I don't know how I transported thrips into my bedroom, because this is the first time in 2 years since I've had a thrips problem. I think I may have accidentally brought one of the plants outside into the living room when I was watering it, may have picked up thrips from one of the new ones, and I brought it back in and just introduced it to the whole family there. But my Triostar Stromanthe has been run over by thrips, and a lot of the leaves have been damaged recently. So I've currently been in the process of isolating it in the kitchen, sitting on top of the garbage can. It's kind of annoying because every time we go to the kitchen, we have to lift up the pot manually to throw things out, but overall I've been treating it. Seems like it's getting a little bit healthier. It's putting out some new leaves. Fingers crossed that this winter it's going to make another comeback like last year and be healthy all over again, because I love, love, love that plant. The variegation is so beautiful. I love to see the pink on the backs of the leaves mixed with the white and the green. It gives it this like beautiful pinkish hue. So I'm just hoping that it springs back to normal and is healthy again by the end of winter. Speaking of my spider plant that's currently sitting in the bedroom, that one has been overrun by thrips. I'm definitely going to be throwing that one out after this video. I honestly just kept it for this video so you guys could see how much damage thrips could do to your plants. You guys have probably been counting how many times I said thrips in this video so far. Take a shot every single time I say thrips and you're gonna get wasted by the end of this video. But that one has been ravaged, and like I said, it's a spider plant. Those plants grow like weeds on their own, so I can honestly just pluck a baby off of one of the other mother plants that I have in the living room, put it back into soil and grow another complete plant on its own. I'm actually okay with giving it away because it has caused me so much headache in the past couple of weeks alone. All right, so that is more or less all the plants in the bedroom. We're gonna jump out into the balcony right now. Well, not jump out, we're just gonna transition over to the plants that are currently sitting on the balcony, and we're gonna chat about those. And I'm gonna give you guys some updates as to how those ones are doing at the moment. So the first plant in the balcony is my tomato plant. So I regrettably planted the seeds way later on in the season this year than I should have. I think I should have planted them earlier in like February, March, and allowed them to germinate indoors before bringing the plant outside when it was warm enough at the end of May. Because this plant, although it is fairly big, I know that with care it could have gotten significantly bigger and yielded way more tomatoes for me. It has already started to yield tomatoes, and I've actually already started to harvest a bunch of them, and I haven't eaten them just quite yet, so I can't tell you how they taste, but they look fairly healthy. I actually don't even know what kind of tomatoes they are because I threw out the seed packet after I planted them. Stupid me, and now I have no idea what tomato plants I have, but they're growing quite well. I'm looking outside to see it so I can reference it when I'm talking to you guys about the plant. I installed the cage about a month ago just to keep it upright because it's starting to get really bushy, and actually this year I started to prune my tomato plant. This is also the first year that I grew a tomato from seed. Previously, in prior years, I grew it with a seedling, and I just wanted to test myself to see if I could manage a tomato plant on its own this year, and it's doing fairly quite well, so I'm pretty happy with that. And I think next year I'm also going to germinate them earlier in spring just to get bushier plants ready to go in the summertime. So like I said, I've been pruning them this year, and I only just learned about pruning, which is, I guess, late, but it's been good practice, and now I understand how when you cut off the bottom leaves, it allows for more air circulation in the plant, and it makes the plant overall a little bit more healthier, less damage from mold, I guess. I've also been pruning quite a bit of the plant recently to encourage it to ripen a little bit faster as the weather is dropping. We're not going to have as warm temperatures anymore, and I don't want a lot of the tomatoes at the top to not be able to ripen on time so that I can actually eat them before it gets too cold outside and they just like freeze over and die in hell. But I'm very happy and satisfied with my tomato plant this season, and as you guys will probably hear as I go through all the plants in the balcony, I've been very happy with the yield of my produce, because if you guys are not familiar, I did have a sort of like produce garden going on in the balcony this summer. So next up is my Meyer Lemon tree. So I didn't buy this plant with the intention of producing any sort of lemons for me to consume this year. I actually bought this plant so I can start growing it in anticipation for the home we're going to buy in the next year or two, so I can have a nice bushier plant to put in there once we have a home. Now, the Meyer lemon tree cannot sit outdoors year round in Canada. It gets way too cold in the winter here for it to be left outside, so I currently have it in a pot. I'm going to have to actually start bringing it in and accommodating it to living indoors, rotating it back in and out as much as possible so that it can overwinter inside, because the plant itself continues to grow all year round. It's actually a fairly healthy plant that can yield fruit all year round given the perfect conditions. My goal right now is actually to just grow it bigger so it's bushier and has more leaves, so that come spring next year all the leaves will be able to produce chlorophyll so it can grow big juicy lemons for me to consume then. So yeah, pretty happy with that guy. He has grown so much since I first acquired him a couple months ago, and I cannot wait to see how much bigger he's gonna get. Hopefully it's gonna become a huge massive bush that I can have in my house within the next year or two once we buy a house. Moving on to my blackberry bush. So I bought this guy because I love blackberries, but unfortunately it has just not yielded me blackberries. I don't know what I'm doing wrong to it. When I read the care labels, the instructions said to give it like fairly bright sun and moderate watering, and I've been doing that, but every time flowers blossomed and gave me the beginnings of a berry, they just never grew into berries. So I don't know if it just needs more water to grow, and it's like a tomato where it just drinks and sucks up water, or not, because all the berries just dried up and died. I know we did have a fairly drier summer than last year, so that could have been it. The heat just killed the plant on its own, but it didn't yield me a single blackberry, and I'm kind of sad about that. I'm gonna have to do some digging online to see whether or not I need to overwinter this plant and bring it indoors so that it can survive for next year, or if he just sits outside. But I'm pretty sad because he didn't yield anything for me this year, and I was really excited, and I was hoping to be able to have some blackberries to consume by the end of summer at least. And then moving on to my kind of pseudo vegetable patch, I will probably have to bring the camera outside. You guys will see in the cutaway because there's too many of them. I cannot bring them inside. I had a ton of pepper plants. So I had Cubanelle peppers, I also had red peppers, sweet peppers, I had green sweet peppers as well, and all of them were doing relatively okay. Halfway through summer, the pepper plants actually started getting run over by aphids. I don't know where these came from, if they were living in the dirt and the soil, but they just started infesting the pepper plants and actually killing off a lot of the leaves, so I had to give it a lot of spray downs. Unfortunately, the infestation and population of aphids grew too big to manage, and I kind of just set the peppers aside to do their thing. I did my first harvest of pepper plants earlier this week though, and I think we pulled out about like 10 different peppers, and we actually cooked them. We stuffed them with ground beef last night and had them, and they were delicious, so I'm fairly happy with the yield. This is my first time ever actually growing pepper plants, so I didn't really have high expectations, but I now know what to expect, and I think next year I'll actually buy a few less of them and give them bigger sizes of soil to actually grow into and to root a little bit deeper. I gave them really small planters this year, so the plants themselves overall stayed fairly small. I think next year if I put them into a 5-gallon pot, they'll be significantly bigger and be able to give me like more peppers. So that is the plan for next year. That's the whole thing about plants, is a lot of it has to do with trial and error, and you learn when you make mistakes and how to improve them next year. It just sucks that in Canada we have one growing season, because then when winter comes you can't really grow them anymore and you have to try again the next year. But it is okay, you live and you learn, and now I know how to take better care of my pepper plants for next year, and we still have some growing right now. I do have quite a few more pepper plants for me to harvest within the next week or so for us to eat, so I think it's a personal success. Move on to the broccoli plants. So the pepper plant aphids actually transferred onto the broccoli plants, and for myself, I thought the broccoli was a hardy enough plant that it wouldn't get affected by aphids, but unfortunately for me, the leaves are very big and huge and relatively thin for the aphids to latch onto, and it gives them a lot of surface area to really eat, so they've more or less consumed the broccoli plants. I will be surprised if I actually get heads of broccoli by the end of October for me to harvest. I'll be very surprised by that. Honestly, for now, it's just once again another experiment to me. I'm just letting them go, do their own thing, and if they turn out well, yes. If not, it's okay. I didn't spend that much on them. The plants themselves were like $1.99 for a cartridge of 4, so I'm happy with that. I'll just try again next year, or maybe I just learned that broccolis are not a thing that I'm gonna be growing on my balcony anymore. I think they need a really deep root system as well, and I definitely did not give it enough soil to thrive this summer, so it's okay. It was fun while it lasted, guys. I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna move on to my strawberry plants. So the strawberry plants that I actually got yielded quite a few strawberries, and I have had the pleasure of being able to cut them off and to eat them. The earlier ones that we harvested in like, I think late June, early July, were kind of sour. They weren't the best ones, but that's okay. As the season progressed, they actually surprisingly got significantly sweeter. We just harvested a couple earlier last week and ate them, and they were delicious. They were super flavorful, very sweet, still very small though, and as the plant matures, it'll start to produce juicier and sweeter plants with age, so I'm totally okay with that. I'm pretty happy with the harvest overall, and I was excited just to be able to have strawberries to eat, so pretty excited about that, and I cannot wait to see how big the strawberries are gonna get next year. Moving on to the other 2 flowering plants that I have on my balcony. Yes, I did get plants with flowers. You guys know I don't really gravitate towards flowering plants usually, but I wanted a rose bush, and if you remember, I accidentally bought some Rose of Sharon hibiscus plants. I didn't really check. When I just saw the word rose on the tag, I was like, yes, I want it. And they said they were gonna grow up nice and tall, not bushy, and that's essentially what I wanted, because I didn't want a huge bush to take up space. So I bought it, and lo and behold, they're hibiscus plants, not roses. But they have actually just recently started blooming within this past week as you're watching this video. And I'm actually so excited because they look stunning. Although I don't have roses, I actually love the way these hibiscus plants look, and I'm just so excited because as they grow larger and larger and I can move into my house and bring them with me, eventually they'll be big enough to become privacy plants, and I might actually even plant these along the side of the house to give the house a little bit more character on the siding in the future. I'm like dreaming of all these things I can do in a house I don't even own yet. I sound ridiculous, but I'm just really happy because the plant is absolutely beautiful and the blooms are humongous, which makes me so freaking happy. Okay, so moving on to that little like bush of a tree, I forget what it's called, I'll include the name somewhere. That one is also another future growth plant that I bought to be able to have to grow so that we move into a house, it'll be nice and bushy. This is what I like to do, guys. I like to raise plants and like make them bigger. And it has put out quite a few little baby leaves thus far this summertime. I haven't noticed like any exponential growth on it, to be honest, so I can't really say if it has gotten significantly bigger, but I do see a lot of fresh leaves, so I'm pretty happy with it overall, and I think it's been doing quite well. And then moving on to the little baby propagations that I got from my pink princess philodendron. I had 3 little babies that I repotted earlier this spring. It has taken off. All of the plants have put out brand new leaves. They're a lot bigger than what I expected to see, honestly, from a tiny little propagation. I'm actually quite happy with them. I may actually just sell them eventually since I can't really keep more pink princess philodendrons in my place. I don't have space to bring in 3 more plants from the outdoors to keep into here. So they're doing quite well, and I'm pretty satisfied with them. I don't really have much else to say. Along with that propagation, I also propagated the babies that were shooting off of the Tradescantia. As you guys know, I said that they're doing really, really well. They have shot off completely and just like grown insanely. Like I don't even know if I'm gonna have space for these ones. So I also will have to sell those ones because I'm not gonna be able to bring those ones and keep them in my place as well. But I'm really happy about those, and they're doing really, really well. So I think the second last plant I'm gonna touch on is my bird of paradise. So as you guys remember, earlier this summer, I put it outside to get some sun on my balcony, and unfortunately the really harsh sun did damage quite a few leaves. I didn't transition and sun it properly, where you're supposed to put it out for a couple of hours and then bring it back inside and then put it outside for a couple of hours and do this on and off for about like a week or 2 until it gets used to the level of sun. And that just ended up really hurting the leaves and damaging and burning a couple of them. But I did find that with the humidity and heat that we've been having so far this summer, because it's been an aggressive summer here in Toronto, it has actually encouraged the plant itself to put out so many new leaves. This is the most amount of leaves I've ever had grown at one single time in like one season. Like I have 3 branches, like 3 stems in that pot. One of them is currently in the process of putting out its 2nd leaf already within one season. I usually only get like 1 leaf per season, alternating amongst the 3 stems. So one of them is putting its 2nd leaf out for the summer, and both of the other branches are also putting out a new leaf. So for the summer itself, it has given me 4 leaves, and I'm just like super grateful for that, because in the past I've only really gotten like 3 to 4 leaves at all in an entire year, and this is one season alone. So I'm just very, very happy. Although some leaves did get damaged, a lot of the newer leaves that are coming out are very healthy, and I think the plant has more or less adjusted to the sun levels, and it's pretty happy overall. Right now it's going to be so much bigger when I bring it back indoors for the winter time. I don't know what I'm going to do with this plant, guys. It has gotten so big, but very happy with it overall, and it's given me a lot of pleasure seeing it grow in the summertime. I think this is actually the very last and final plant that I have to talk about in this houseplant tour, and it is my Rhaphidophora Tetrasperma that I have left outside. I did say that I was experimenting with leaving it outside to see how it would take with the natural environment, and it has shot off. It has already surpassed a brand new bamboo stick that I gave it. It has branched off at the base with so many extra baby shoots everywhere, and its stem is like thick, like hella thick. I know at the base when it started growing out it was really thick, and when I brought it home the stem actually thinned out a little bit, and I think it's because of the lighting conditions. But all the new shoots that have been growing off of it, and ever since I brought it outside, the stem from where it started growing outdoors have literally doubled in size from the stem size when it was inside. So I love that the outdoor environment has really given this plant the opportunity to shoot off and to grow. But it has grown like a weed, and I don't know where to put it now. Like more of a weed than the other Rhaphidophora Tetraspermas that I have inside of our place. But I'm just really happy because it has taken off so well. And I think worst comes to worst, if I really do have to get rid of a couple shoots here and there, I'll just like sell them or give them away or trade them for some beer or wine or coffee grinds in our building. I'm sure people would enjoy to have it, so I'm pretty happy with that plant. It has given me so much joy this summer. Honestly, all the plants that I've had on my balcony, besides that goddamn blackberry plant, has given me so much joy seeing them grow and flourish in the summertime and really taking on all this bright indirect lighting that I get on the balcony, along with the humidity that we've received for the summer, for the extended duration of summer. Like, we had warm months from early May all the way to like end of August right now, and that is unheard of when it comes to Canada. We usually only get like 3-ish months or so, and we have almost 5 to 6 months of warmth this summer though so far. So I'm really sad that fall is coming, because that means all these plants are gonna slow down when it comes to growth. It has gone so bright outside that I had to manually update the brightness in the camera. I hope it didn't affect the video quality whatsoever at all, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give me a big thumbs up so that I know, and I'll continue making these videos for you guys. Make sure you also subscribe so you guys will be notified every single time I upload a brand new video. As always, I upload on Thursdays and Sundays at 7 p.m. If you guys want more of me, you can check me out on Instagram right here. This is my handle. I post on there quite regularly, along with Twitter, so you guys can follow me along there, see my shenanigans. Otherwise, if you want to watch me make an actual fool of myself, check me out on TikTok right here. I just do like the weirdest videos there, and I also update that one pretty regularly as well. I think almost every single day. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and have an amazing day. I will see you in the next one. Bye!